Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to show you how to take apart and service a pretty classic reel. This is a Ryobi SX2 also known as the Silver Cloud series. This is about a size 30 fishing reel. It's ideal for inshore fishing, including lakes, piers, boats, and well, casting from the riverbank or surf as well. It's going to handle about 6, 8, or 10 pound test, so use that as a guide for what this fishing reel can be used for. It's probably the 1980s. Ryobi, yeah, it's the tool manufacturer. They were out of production in the U.S. or distribution in the U.S. in the 1990s. They signed an agreement with Berkley where Berkley would take over sales and the product lines in the U.S. Ryobi continued to sell at the international level and just not in the U.S., and I believe they continue to do that today. So I'm going to show you what this reel is made of, show you how to take it apart, how to service it. So let's get started. We're going to remove the exterior pieces. As I do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. My channel covers all types of fishing reel service and repair type issues. And if you like the art of fishing reel service and repair, if you like to learn about fishing reels, who made them, when they were made, how they're used, and so on, then I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And please use that notification button. That button will let you know when I'm posting videos. I cover all kinds of fishing reels, from something like this, a freshwater reel, to a very big trolling reel, to, well, everything in between. Low profile bait casters, you name it, I kind of cover it. All right, spool, not much that you can do in servicing there. These are pressed in, I believe. Yeah, they're pressed in. You can pull them out if you want, but they are Teflon washers, so no maintenance required there. And I think that's what happens with lower end reels. When you look at the reels that manufacturers are producing, a lot of times in the value or the what I'll call the low end reels, they understand that the folks may not be using them frequently, and if they don't use them frequently, they want to take as much precaution as they can in terms of enabling the reel to survive for as long as it can. So a lot of times it's things like that work there with the Teflon drag washers. You don't have to worry about maintaining them. And well, we'll see what's going on inside here. To remove the handle, you remove the handle screw. I like to put it right back in there so I don't lose it when it's time to put it back together again. The big parts I leave off to the side. The small parts I use a parts tray. The parts tray helps me keep track of the pieces and parts, so then when it comes time to reinstall, we know where they are. Looking at this over here, it appears that this has a incorporated pinion gear into the rotor, probably held in by a tension clip. So we'll look at the design of this reel. And all the designs, quite honestly, are pretty good. Some folks don't like those clips that we're talking about because over time you will get a wobble in that rotor if it's severely worn. But again, remember, who was using this or who it's probably designed for is not taking this as a daily driver from a fishing standpoint. That doesn't mean it can't be used on a daily basis, but most of the time they're probably thinking of these more along the lines of an occasional user, maybe even as much as once a week. And that changes what you view as the average wear and tear on it, and it changes how you go about the material management. All right, I want to check here. I want to move this to the off position. That way when we remove the cover, if there is any issue with the main gear travel, sometimes it will pop this off. 3 screws are out. I checked before I put them into my parts tray. They are all the same size, so it doesn't matter what position you put them in. All right, we should be able to get this off now. We have a bushing in the case. The case is acting as the bushing. And we have one shim washer there. Here's that anti-reverse that we just shut off. Notice that there's a nice spring mechanism there. And we'll just take a quick moment to clean this up. I want to do 2 things. I like to use the penetrating oil on that spring mechanism. Just work it back and forth. It'll help clean that up. I also like to use that penetrating oil for the cleaning of any grease that's gotten stuck in the case. Now that gets stuck because of, well, where it's been placed over time. If this went into storage, it probably went into storage this way, face down, maybe laying on something. Well, gravity does its work. It pulls everything down. Then you get a puddle of grease where gravity can't push it down any further. Remove the pin that is holding the crosswind arm and the axle shaft, and then you can pull the axle shaft out. I recommend that you take pictures along the way as you're doing this, particularly if you're working on a reel where you cannot find a reel schematic. The pictures will be invaluable in showing you where the orientation of the pieces and parts were before you started taking the reel apart. And if you have any questions on reassembly, it's a great reference point to go back and look. This is a single piece crosswind block. It's hard to mess this one up. For the reinstall, two things to note on this. It's going to face down. You have your pin is going to travel through here, and your pin is going to lock into the groove in the back of this case. So pay attention to that when it's time to reinstall. We should be able to just pull the main gear out now. Lots of old grease, a little bit of grease in the case here. And then this is what I was talking about, a pinion gear that's an integral part of the rotor. And this is your little clip. We're going to remove that U-clip, and we can remove the rotor. And you want to do that because, well, here's another puddle of grease here. If you didn't address taking that rotor off, this grease buildup can slow the performance of the reel. So much of the service and repair of a reel is nothing more than cleaning and observation. You want to take all the old dips and greases and the like off. You want to inspect the pieces and parts. Like here, we just have a lot of old grease. Inspect the pieces and parts. Make sure they're not damaged. Now, if you find a damaged part on this reel, you're in trouble, because you're not going to be able to find the replacement pieces and parts. But that's one of the things you might want to do before you purchase a reel if you're buying one used. Of course, if you bought this one new, then you know the history of the reel. And, well, if something broke along the way, you probably would know that as well. But if you're in the used market trying to find this, that's much more difficult. So make sure you do thorough testing on the reel before you purchase it. All right, integral part of your rotor. You do need to brush off the old dirt and debris, and just use a hard bristle brush for that. And I brush it onto a towel so that I don't transfer it. I use penetrating a lot in the cleanup. This is the working side of your bail. This is just a dead end post here. I want to work that in. I want to check. There should be a little beak that pokes out here. That's your trip lever. And when it comes around, it's going to hit the ramp right here. That ramp. That's going to cause it to push in and flip. So just make sure that the bail is operating nicely. If it's operating nicely, you do not need to remove the bail as part of your service. Okay, this one's in good condition, so all we're going to do is take some fishing reel grease. Going to make sure that we put a nice amount of grease onto that pinion gear. Then we can reinstall the rotor. I'm for working in small segments on fishing reels rather than taking the whole reel apart and then trying to make sense of it later on. Just work on sub-units or sub-assemblies. It generally will go easier for you, and you won't have as many questions about where does this piece or part belong. Just a little bit more mop up on that case. Again, the case acts as the bushings for both sides. Take your rotor and insert it. Make sure you have that gap here for your U-clip. Go ahead and take that U-clip. Bring that back in. I guess I have it upside down. One side is a little bit more narrow than the other. So that makes a difference on the reinstall. There we go. And then the case will hold this piece in. Give it a spin right now. That spins nice and free and easy. That's what it's supposed to do. Let's go over and clean up the main gear. Again, what we were saying there, centrifugal force is going to throw off grease into these inner channels here. Does no good in there. Not of value. And, well, it's going to throw it off and away from the teeth, so that you have to do the cleaning here. If you don't clean this, a lot of this stuff that might be coming into the reel may have, say, salt or micro sands or things like that. Grease is a great attractant for that. It'll hold it. And, well, if it gets in the wrong places, it'll act like an emery or an abrasive kind of surface that will cause problems. Take your cotton swabs or other pieces that you use to clean. Make sure you clean the face of the gear. And it's probably a good time to tell you, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, just leave them in the comment section. I do try to answer the questions. Maybe you're working on one and having some difficulty along the line. Just had a question somebody left. They were working on a reel that had an override switch like this. Had a little spring in there and they couldn't figure out where the spring went because it popped out of the case. And it's a fairly common problem with the design of the reel that they were talking about. So I was able to get them back on track. All right, the main gear is cleaned. Take a look at the back side of it. Make sure that's cleaned as well. You want to make sure you get all the dirt and debris out of the tracks in the gear teeth, just like we did with the other one. Inspect it to make sure that nothing's damaged there. And we mentioned this is, I'll call it a value-priced reel. It's a nice reel. It's a consistent and older design. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're comparing this to a higher priced reel, one of the things you would notice is the lack of ball bearings. These have, using the case as the bushings. You'd also notice the quality of the metal in the gear itself. This is what we would probably refer to as pot metal. And, well, they do make a difference in the way that the reel operates. All right, a little bit of grease onto the face here. Back side of this, and we're going to bring that cross-wind arm over now. And then over the cross-wind arm belongs that little shim washer that we took off. That goes right here, and that's a dual-purpose shim washer. That's going to keep this arm in, and it's going to act as a buffer against the case. Okay, what we have to do then is put the axle shaft on. Let's grab the axle shaft, light coating of grease, bring that through the top hole, center your carrier so that when you put the pin in, it's going to land in that channel we showed you before. Bring the pin in, through the axle shaft, seat it, and that's the way it should seat, just a little bit of a pin sticking out on that side because this is the other ramp that it will work on. When you go to set your case now, you're going to bring this lip to the inside of the lever here, like that, and then just a little bit of a shake, spin it, and that generally will set the anti-reverse. Yep, we got it. All right, 3 screws for the lower case. And again, we looked at, when we started this, we made sure that all 3 of those screws were the same size. That way it ensures that you can put them in any location. I sense that one of these holes is not lining up. If you have any problem with the hole, use a pick. Just go in and set it like that. It generally will align it up First one's always the hard one. Another thing I'm noticing is these screws are steel screws. This is a magnetic head screwdriver, and the magnet is reaching the screw head and attaching. So that's the way you save $1 or two, probably pennies, in the construction of a reel that you're going to value price. If you use the steel versus stainless steel, the steel screws are less expensive. But most of the time these things are going to be in fresh water. And if you clean the reels on a regular basis, which is what's recommended after every trip, hose the rod and reel off that you're using. If you do that on a regular basis, you shouldn't have issues with things like rust. Alright, here's your handle again. Pull this. This is an interchangeable handle. You can use it from either side. One of the things I did note that's interesting is the cup on this side is a lot more narrow than the one on the other side. And my mind, of course, is always curious, and I'm wondering why that is. And it may be, and I could be wrong, I'd have to go back and check. If you're using this for a big hook, you may be able to hook right onto that section there and not damage the reel. Don't know. All right. As we mentioned, the spool has Teflon washers in it. They're embedded in the reel. There's a little crimp on top of this. Don't need to service it. Tighten it down. Make sure that it's holding, and then I like to back that off because that acts as a vise and compresses your drag washers. Let's give it a test. Well, it's doing exactly what I would expect it to do. Make sure that it trips nice and easy. There you go. That's how to take apart, service, understand how the reel is made, and put it back together again. The reel is the Ryobi SX2 the Silver Cloud. That's how to take it apart, service it, keep it fishing for a long time to come. Well, before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, and rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I want to thank you, the viewers, for helping make the channel a success and making it what it is and what it will become. Your comments, your knowledge, and the information you share in the community forum help us to keep the art of reel repair alive and prospering. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.